Hello everyone, Basic Ollie here, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another video. Now, an idea popped in my head last night and I thought to myself, why don't we look at the 3 most popular online racing sims and see what their penalty systems are like and compare them to see which one really does come on top. So, the 3 that we are going to be looking at today, I should say, is the first one will be iRacing, the second one will be GT Sport, and the third one will be Assetto Corsa Competizione. And we're going to break it down into 2 sections essentially. So the first one is contact, big or small. So how do these games deal with contact? And then the second one is corner cutting / gaining an advantage. Those are the 2 big things I'd say in sim racing, and just they really need to be looked into at all games, and they're absolutely vitally important that they are spot on, because it can make a huge difference and there'll be huge ramifications if you get it wrong. Don't be a Michael Massey and decide to change the rules halfway through it. There's no point in that. Make sure that when you create a game that the penalty system is spot on, because it is absolutely vital for people to race online and to make it as fair as it possibly can be. So let's have a look at these 2 factors then. Let's start with iRacing, and let's start with, what should we start with? Let's start with contact, shall we? Let's have a look at that. So then, as we go into turn 3 at Daytona, I believe, just keep an eye on the yellow Ferrari in my mirror. We're going to have a slight bit of contact here, and it is going to give us a time 0. So iRacing works in a point penalty system. So essentially, depending on the session, let's say you had a 20-minute race, iRacing would give you a set amount of instant points. So let's say 17. That bit of contact wouldn't add towards our 17. It would be absolutely fine. We would get away with that. So you're absolutely fine. As long as it doesn't cause anything significant as such, you will not get any instant points added to your total. Now, I will quickly add that when it comes to instant points in iRacing, contact and track corner cuts and track limits are included in that total. So let's have a look at this then. So as we deliberately crash into this Lamborghini here and cause a big accident, you can see we've got a times 4. So let's just say, for example, we had 4 incidents like this. Okay, so we got up to 16, and then we had 1 off track. That would equal 17, and in some sessions 17 is enough for a drive-through. So minor contact, you get a 0. Big contact, you can get a times 4. Quick note to add as well, if you do lose control of the car, you'll actually get a times 2. So if you do spin it, you will also get a times 2. Now, let's have a look at track limits. Now, track limits on iRacing can seem quite severe, but I suppose in online you kind of really need to stamp your foot down on such things. So you can see here, I'm going to go off the track, touch a bit of grass here. Even though I've still got 2 wheels on there over the white line, it is going to give me a times 1. So like I said, if you do that too many times and you tally totals up along with your contact, you will eventually get either a drive-through or disqualified from the session. So you must watch out for those off track. So that's what happens when you get a little bit less. That's what happens when you go off track slightly. What exactly happens then if you really try and take the nick? What happens if you try and gain an advantage? What does the game do then? Well, let's have a look. Coming up to the bus stop chicane at Daytona, instead we're going to be a very naughty boy, and we're just going to cut it utterly and completely and get a huge advantage, and we get something what is called a slowdown. So the game tries to calculate exactly how much time you have gained from being a very naughty boy and cutting the bus stop chicane at Daytona, and the longer you go on, the more it goes up, because you've got a set amount of time. You've got 30 seconds from the actual time you cut it until you are served with a drive-through or disqualified. So you can see we're slowing it down as much as you can, or to a set amount, and you can see it's steadily going down, but you've got to make sure that you clear it before that time is up, and if you don't, you will get a drive-through penalty. So it's vital that you do that. Right then, let's look at game number 2, which is GT Sport, which funnily enough, you can actually change a few settings if you do a private lobby here. And there's one thing in this game that the other games don't have, and that is wall collision penalties. So believe it or not, if you truly mess up and hit the wall, you do get a strong penalty. I can only assume that is in the game because there is no damage model really, apart from the FIA stuff, which is very limited damage model to say the least. So let's go at Monza then, go through the first chicane. You see we've cut that heavily, just gone straight through the barriers. We've gained a lot of time there, and what is the penalty we are going to receive? We're going to receive a 1.5 second penalty, slowdown penalty, for ignoring the track limit. So that's a 1.5 second penalty there. Not as much as I thought it would be, actually, to be fair. And as we go into the second chicane at Monza, we're going to cut the second part of it here, and it's going to give us a half-second penalty for that. So it adds up to about 2 seconds. Now, this was in a private lobby, which is a slightly different system. As you slow down, the penalty gets served. But if you are in an online lobby, there'll be lines where you have to serve it. For example, here it will slow you right down to a set speed until the penalty is completely cleared, and then you start going again. So I actually don't mind that system. I actually think it's okay. It's not too bad at all, as long as you serve it on the line instead of serving it wherever you want. Now this time, as you can see, I completely and utterly took the mick. I completely cut the first chicane. I gained a shed load of time, but on this occasion, it's going to give me a 22.5 second penalty. And then as we cut through the second chicane here, you're going to see the barrier collision penalty come into full effect here. So we get 5 seconds for hitting the barrier. This is actually a pretty good system if it is implemented well. I like the fact it will change how big the penalty is depending on how much you've actually cut it, which is pretty good. I like the fact it actually knows that, and you know, it's a set amount of time that it will give you. So 27.5 seconds worth of penalties. Quite severe, but probably well deserved, I'd say, on that one. So good job with the corner cutting penalties, I feel, on the GT Sport. Now, this is where the real weakness of GT Sport comes in. This could be a very small section because GT Sport, as you can clearly see, does not have any contact penalties anymore. Basically, what happened is people moaned like crazy, and eventually they just thought, we're just going to turn it off because it's just not worth the hassle. And online has no contact penalties anymore, so in the lower lobbies it is an absolute brawl, so be careful. Bit ironic from a game that actually makes you watch a sportsmanship video before you go into a lobby, and they have no penalty system for contact, which I find very strange indeed. But anyways, let's jump into ACC then. Now ACC, let's have a look at the corner cutting penalties as we go through the first chicane, and we completely cut it, and you can see we get a warning for track limits. Now, on ACC, warning for track limits, as you can see, we get another one through there, through the second chicane. If it's a big cut, they will give you a warning for track limits, or if you've done a minor cut several times already. So if you get 4 of those, you will get disqualified or a drive-through. So you get 3, and then as you hit the 4th one, you will get 1. And this is a prime example of a minor cut here, which won't actually get you a penalty. It will add up if you keep doing them, but you only get a track limits no time game, which I'm actually a really big fan of, actually. The fact you can go wide. As long as you don't gain any time, the game is quite sympathetic, which is pretty awesome. And then we go into minor contact. You see turn 1 Monza, contact is bound to happen. As you can see, we get a collision with car 15. Both cars receive a safety rating penalty, which is very similar to iRacing, as in if you make contact with someone, you both get a penalty, which sounds harsh, but it's probably the best way to do it online, because that really does mean that everyone's got to be clean, regardless. You know, you've really got to keep an eye out, and it's probably the best system to use online if there is no, like, kind of marshal or anyone who's supervising race control. And then, at this point, a major collision here, completely total the car, and the same sort of thing, we get a collision penalty. So, no real difference between a minor and major is what I found when I was doing these tests. But those are all 3 games, and these are my overall ratings. Let me know in the comments what you think is best. Give us a rating and explain why. I'd love to know your theories and what you think. But this is my overall rating. I gave iRacing actually 8.5. I actually think the iRacing system is probably the best out of the 3, but only marginally. Only marginally. The slowdown is probably what has given it the extra 0.5 points. I like the fact that instead of, if you cut that huge chicane at Monza, it will give you a slowdown for whatever you need to, which is cool. It can be a bit of a hindrance, because sometimes it can give you a slowdown when you really haven't done much at all. But that is why iRacing has won it for me. GT Sport is dead last, because there's no contact penalty system online, which is a huge issue, and people can just do what they want when they want. And like I said, for a game that makes you watch a sportsmanship video before you go online, not good enough. Not good enough at all. And then last but not least, it's ACC. Only just lost because they do not have a slowdown there. But I really do love the fact that if you do go wide, it gives you so many opportunities to make up for it. I.e., you know, if you go slightly wide, it'll give you plenty of warnings until it actually gives you a track limit. And, you know, if you end up going wide or cutting the chicane, sometimes not having a slowdown can be beneficial in certain circumstances, you know. It can be manipulated a little bit, I feel. You know, lap one, Monza chicane there, completely cut it, gained a lot of time, just got track limit, you could just take that. But one quick thing to note, both on iRacing and ACC, if there is someone who's a steward or, is in race control, they can force a penalty upon you. So just an FYI, you won't get away with it all the time. People can still give you penalties. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to see more stuff like this, or you want me to see more in-depth guides of me looking at sim racing games, let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe if you are new around here, and I'll catch you for the next one. Take care. Ta-da.